Are leaders born or can they be made? I've probably changed my perspective on this over time, and I want to share my thoughts with you here on the John O'White Leadership Podcast. But first I want to ask you, what do you think? Do you think leaders are born or are they made? At one point, I definitely would have said that leaders are born. I remember when I had my first opportunity to step into leadership, I was naive around what was involved in leading well. I came into a role where I had about 30 people who were volunteers that I was leading. And subconsciously, what I believed is that if I could just do exceptionally well at all the things I needed to do, then everything would go well. And I guess I assumed that these 30 people would just follow me. And there are some things about how I was promoted, how I got that role, that reminds me of this idea that we think leaders are born. You know, I feel like even though I'm not the most charismatic personality, I feel like there was some elements in different areas where I was serving and where I was involved where I was quite charismatic, where I was up the front. And because of that, I think if I look at the circumstances of my own leadership, I think there could have been a little bit of an arrogance in me, assuming that I was born to be a leader. And so let me just jump in here and say there's a difference between calling and whether you're born to be a leader. I do believe people are called. I believe there's something on your life to actually make an impact on other people's lives. I truly do believe that. And I do believe that about myself and about my life. So I'm not saying that I'm not called, but I think now that I look back at my first opportunities as a leader, and I remember standing in a room and when I had this revelation and just feeling sick in my stomach because I looked around at these amazing people. I looked around at these faces of these incredible, passionate, competent, wonderful human beings. And I remember having this profound, sick feeling because I thought, I don't know how on earth to get this bunch of people really humming. I don't know how to get this group of people, and they're so amazing. And for me, it was and some of you listening to this, you might go, that's so obvious. But for me, I went, wow, maybe I need to do something different. Maybe it's something I need to learn. Maybe it's something that I need to understand about how to lead this group of people to actually see us transition and really shift and to get this bunch of people rowing in the same direction. For me, that was a big aha moment. And so I have really come to believe from my own experience, because of the growth I've experienced as a leader, learning things like as a leader, it's not about my people serving and supporting me. It's about me actually saying, how can I support them? It's about learning what it means to have a healthy team, about how to create and build a healthy leadership team that people love being part of, the sort of team where you're sitting and you're laughing together and you're having robust discussions about important things and they become like your family. That for me was learned. And so my answer to this question, are leaders born or are they made? I believe leaders are made. I believe leaders are made. I believe people have natural characteristics that can lend themselves. But I also believe that the key things in leadership can be learned. Let me tell you that even charisma, which a lot of us, in my opinion, mistakenly assume is one of the keys to leadership. Well, even charisma, which in my opinion isn't that important in leadership, even charisma can be learned. So I believe if you're listening to this or you're watching this and you're going, Jono, I'm certainly, I'm not cut out to be a leader, then you're wrong. I believe that you can be a leader. You can grow to be a leader. And what are some of the things that you need to grow to be a leader? Well, the first one, and it's a big one, is trust. Great leaders build trust. That's one of the top things. One of the best ways you build trust is by listening. I talk about this a lot, but in the Leadership Conversations podcast, there's an episode that I do with Joe Folkman from Zinger Folkman. And Joe's got a new book as of right now. This is November 2021 when I'm doing this recording. This book hasn't come out yet. But this, I think it's called the Trifecta of Trust. I hope I haven't titled that, Joe. But there's 3 elements that Joe talks about in this book from their research. From 110,000 leaders doing 360-degree feedback, incredible research and data. And trust is made up of 3 things: consistency, expertise, and number 1 is relationships. So if you think leaders are born, are you telling me that you can't grow in how you relate with people and how you build relationships? Are you telling me that you can't grow in consistency? And are you telling me that you can't grow in your expertise? Because I think all of these things we can grow in them. And listening is a big part of that. But if we look at these 3, let's say consistency. Okay, consistency. Self-reflect. Do you follow through and do what you say you're going to do? How disciplined are you? That's something you can grow in. You can get a mentor. You can have an accountability partner. You can seek feedback. You can do a 360-degree feedback and find out. One of the fascinating things from that podcast, again, which I encourage you to go and listen to in our Leadership Conversations podcast with Joe Folkman, Joe said, I said to him, what's one thing? A young leader, what's the one tip you would give them? And his answer was so different to many others. He said, Jono, I would encourage them to get a 360-degree feedback done about their leadership as soon as possible. Their average age of people who undertake a 360 about themselves is 46. That's way too old. Now, 20-year-old leaders need to know that. Is it scary? Yes. But is it the key to growing? Yes, because leaders aren't born. Leaders are made. They're developed. And if you want to develop as a leader, you need to understand the brutal facts, the reality. Are you leading? Well, are you doing what you say you're going to do? Are you modeling the way as a really famous leadership book, The Leadership Challenge, talks about it? Are you modeling the way? Are you being consistent? Let's go to the relationships piece. Remember, it's consistency, expertise, and relationships when it comes to trust. And I'm just picking on this as one example of how I believe leaders are made. And trust is probably the biggest thing. If you can grow in this one area, relationships, this is even more important than consistency, research shows. And it's because I think if people feel like they have a strong relational connection with you, there's going to be a higher chance of trust, and vice versa. If people don't feel connected to you, if people don't feel like you understand that you have their back, then there's going to be lower trust. And so one of the best things you can grow in is how you build relationships. And building relationships, there's a great framework. I know I'm presenting a bunch of different ideas here in this episode, but feel free to go and explore them all. There's a framework called The Cure, which is a framework by Dr. John Warlow. He's based here in Brisbane, where I'm based, and fantastic framework. He's a psychiatrist, has some books that go into a lot of depth for people who are very interested around this, from the real, really practical and deep, even for psychiatrists to unpack this. So the idea of CURE is that it talks about CURE, connect, understand, respond, engage. And most of us, when we want to build relationships with our partner, building relationships with our kids, with our friends, at work, we focus on engage. Why aren't my people doing what I ask them to do? Why is my engagement with my kids suffering? Why is that? Why do I not feel as close to that friend? In terms of how we engage, we don't feel as close. And the thing I love about CURE is it strips it back and it says, stop starting with engage. It's like this in nearly every area of life. We focus on the end result. We focus, and instead we need to strip it away and realize that, yes, engaging is the goal. We want to have a truly engaging relationship with our partner and with our kids and with our friends and with our work colleagues. It starts right back at a little itty-bitty idea called connect. And the thing I love about Dr. John Warlow's work and this idea of connecting is that connecting can just be being together. And this takes so much pressure off leaders. What if becoming a better leader for you in your context looks like just spending a bit more time with your people? Someone said in a podcast episode recently, they said, I'm a leader. I lead by wandering. I wander around the office. And I thought that was so brilliant. I think a lot of us can learn from that. Another thing someone said in a Leadership Conversations podcast that's really stuck with me is they said an open door policy isn't about having a physically open door. That doesn't count. That's called an open door, but not an open door policy. An open door policy is where your people feel comfortable walking through that door. And you know what? And I can't remember if they said this, but this starts with going out your door. You need to start by actually going and meeting your people where they're at, connecting with them, build connection. And if you can build connection, if you can increase how consistent you are, that you do what you say you're going to do, if you can, and then expertise was the other one from Joe Folkman, and expertise is about really owning and understanding your role in what you do. If you can do these things, then I believe you can grow in just this one area of trust. So that's my answer. I believe leaders aren't born. I believe they're made. Some people are born with some characteristics that are important in leadership, but I think most of those ones that we like, charisma, we overestimate its importance. Instead, focus on growing. If you want to be a great leader, leaders are made. Focus on growing in trust, grow your listening, grow in empathy, grow in strategy, grow in reading books like The 4 Disciplines of Execution. And as you grow in these different areas, you can become a truly great leader. People love to follow. I hope today's episode of the Jono White Leadership Podcast has helped you in your leadership. Just a reminder that everything we do in this podcast and at Clarity is to invest in you, is to invest in people like you to become the very best you can be, to become everything you're meant to be in order to fill the world with healthy organizations that people love to work for and customers line up to buy from. That's our heart. And if you're just joining us for the first time, then do make sure you go to consultclarity.org. That's consultclarity.org. We have so many incredible resources on there. We have the 1,500 answers. So 1,500 leaders from around the world have done the 7 questions on leadership. It's completely free to access. It's on our website. You can find it there. And their answers are so helpful. There's so much wisdom there, and I'd encourage you to do that. And the other thing I'd encourage you to do is to share your thoughts on leadership. Yes, I do believe that you have advice from your life and your experience and your context, no matter how young, how old, or what part of the world you're in and what industry you lead in, that other leaders can learn from. So if you're interested in giving back, it's free to get involved. You can fill out the 7 questions on leadership, and the starting point is just to express your interest in doing it. And you do that by going to consultclarity.org/7-questions-interest, or you can Google 7 questions interest consultclarity.org, and it'll pop up there, and there's a form for you to fill out. Another thing on our website I'd encourage you to get is our free download of the Leadership Survival Guide. It's just on the homepage, consultclarity.org, right at the top. Completely free, 57-page ebook, 10 world-class leaders give their thoughts on leadership, what they've found challenging, the book that's really been helpful for them, and a bunch of other things. So make sure you download the free Leadership Survival Guide on our website. The other thing you can do is we have a daily email that you might want to join. We have 15,000 leaders receiving that email right now. And what we put in there every day is a highlight from our content, one of our podcasts, a blog, a book, something, maybe a book we're reading. We also have in there exclusive and limited access, early access for our subscribers to our masterclasses and workshops on all topics of leadership, like work-life balance, emotional intelligence, how to coach others, a bunch of topics like that. Whenever that happens, you want to be subscribed, and you can subscribe by going to consultclarity.org/subscribe and join 15,000 other leaders. Now, my gift to you is to work incredibly hard to make this content as helpful as possible, and to invest in you. That's my gift to you. And if you've found this helpful, particularly if this has been an investment in your leadership and helped you to move forward, then your gift to me could be to write a review. That is, I can't even explain how helpful that is. It really does help us to get the word out there about our content and to invest in more leaders like you. Or give us a rating. Wherever you're watching or listening, give us a rating and make sure you subscribe or follow. Those things are super helpful. Another thing that means a lot to me personally is when I see members of our community sharing our content or anywhere on social media. If you do that, hey, make sure you look for Jono White and look for Clarity and tag us. And our team is always on the lookout. When we see you share something from us, we will often engage and even potentially share your content with what you say with the rest of the community. So make sure you do that. Go and share it on social media. We'll be watching for that. That's another way you can really help us out. Last of all is my book, Step Up or Step Out. If you're a leader and you are finding it challenging to deal with someone because you're finding it difficult, you're just on different wavelengths, then check out my book, Step Up or Step Out, How to Deal with Difficult People Even If You Hate Conflict. It's available on Amazon. You can look up Step Up or Step Out Jono White, or go to store.consultclarity.org/book. I really believe that from 50% of my coaching sessions, this topic has come up again and again, and that's why I believe so deeply in the 3-step process I go through in Step Up or Step Out. Leaders say, Jono, I'm so sick of not knowing how to deal with this. I don't want it to all blow up. What do I do? That's why I wrote Step Up or Step Out, and I really hope that can help you. So go and check out my book. And thank you so much for listening. We're going to be back with a new episode of the Jono White Leadership Podcast next time. I hope today has helped you take another step towards becoming the very best leader you can be, and ultimately becoming everything I believe you're meant to be. We'll see you next time.